Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, the investigation that went on at the Ruby Princess undocking in Sydney, Australia is finally finished. And boy, there are some very interesting findings in this decision. So a lot of people have been waiting patiently to find out this investigative reporting by a third party into what happened with the Ruby Princess. Just to catch you up, the cruise ship had reported that they have a few passengers on board that are feeling unwell. They're starting to show symptoms, but they don't have any tests on board for the virus to test, but they have these passengers to be tested. When they pulled into port, the health authorities deemed it to be low risk and let everybody off without getting tests back, without getting results back, without doing more testing. And it turns out that over 600 cases in Australia directly related to the cruise ship, people were infected. And not only that, there were 20 deaths directly associated from the cruise ship. So obviously, Australia was, what's going on? What the hell happened? How could this happen? And the big part that I want to point a lot of people's attention to is that Princess Cruise Lines took a huge amount of heat. First off, they were the first ones to pull in to good old the Diamond Princess into Japan. No one knew what was going on. This was the outbreak of everything, and people, the health officials kept everybody on the ship thinking that was the best idea, and we don't know really what to do, and it just turned into a complete disaster. And then the second one to pop up was the Ruby Princess in Australia and the catastrophe that happened there. So Princess really took a huge hit in particular. And a lot of people, the news media is out there, were saying Princess mishandles a second cruise ship. Another cruise ship by Princess is an incubator for the virus and completely spreads the virus across Australia. All these kind of headlines that were out there on how bad that the handling that the Princess had done and all this, and it's so bad that they launched an investigation from the authorities, and it had to be a third-person investigation. Well, the findings that came out from that basically completely, and by the way, it's like a 350-page document. So it's not like it's just a couple pages here and there, a footnote. No, it's a huge, thorough investigation. And they came out and they basically said that the cruise line did everything they were asked to do and were supposed to do at the time. They were taking all their feedback from the New South Wales Health Officials, and they were following the instructions. They handed over everything that they were supposed to hand over. They were cooperative in every way, and they were basically completely cleared of any wrongdoing. The minute they were told to do something, they did it immediately, and they hid nothing. Emails, voice conversations, video recordings, everything was handed over to the investigation. However, the investigation was definitely not very kind to the New South Wales public health officials that made these decisions. And basically they called the decision to let those passengers off without getting the tests done ahead of time and all that, basically irresponsible and unjustifiable. At no point in any of that decision should that have ever been made. They said there were breakdowns left and right in the public health officials' assessment of the situation, and that it is the New South Wales Public Health Office itself that put all those passengers and all those people at risk, not the cruise line. So that's a pretty big, and it fell short, mind you, of publicly saying that heads should roll in the public health officials, that they should be resigning, they should be fired over this. Just short of that. But I'm pretty sure and guessing pretty quickly that you're going to see calls for this over the next few weeks very fast. Once this document gets out to everybody and the findings get out to everybody, you're going to see heads are going to roll in Australia pretty quickly from this decision. And all those lawsuits that have been filed now against the Princess Cruise Lines from the Ruby Princess might just have to divert and refile towards Australia themselves. Because, that seems to be the way this entire findings found, that all of the fault, all of it, was from the public health officials themselves and the handling they did of the situation. So here, does this have further ramifications down the road? Does this hold ramifications for anyone suing the Diamond Princess, the Grand Princess, or selling, Costa Cruise Lines, any of the other lawsuits going on everywhere? When you see a finding that shows that the cruise lines did what they possibly could, they were not at fault, they did everything that they knew at the time, and that's the key word. Knowing what we know now has nothing to do with the situation of knowing what to do back then. Right? Knowing now how World War II happened, doesn't change, what happened in World War II. There's nothing we can do to change it, right? So don't confuse the things. Knowing now does what you know now, you can't just go back and change things the way it used to be, right? So does that mean that a lot of these other lawsuits now might have to shift focus, or they can bring this decision up and say, look, we did the same thing they did on the Ruby Princess. So how would we be to blame when they were completely cleared and it's the actual public health officials that are at fault? And you might see a lot of switching around, a lot of lawsuits aiming, depending on what the charges that they're bringing up against the cruise lines are. We're probably not going to see those things in court anyway for quite a while right now, but I guarantee you right now, the lawyers who are suing a class action suit against the Royal Princess, against Princess Cruise Lines now in Australia, are quickly reevaluating where to go with their direction. Because this finding actually came out and said, no, the cruise line did everything they were supposed to do. So how do you sue the cruise line when the official documentation came through already saying that they were right? I'm happy for Princess that this decision came out that way. It's one of the, it could really show in the future of cruising for that cruise line in particular, taking all this hit for numerous ships, the Ruby, the Grand, the Diamond Princess. Well, it's turning out that it looks like they were doing exactly what they were supposed to do at the time. And that's all we could ever ask of anybody in any situation, is that they do what they thought was best at the time for everybody, with the knowledge they had at the time. And that's all we can ask. That's all we can ask of them, and that's all we can ask of ourselves. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Till next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.